There are 4,218 PS2 games, and I'm beating every one of them. I've got to own the game because I'm playing everything on the original hardware, but I've beefed it up with a RetroTink 5X, some component cables, and more to come soon. Can I do this before I die of old age? I hope so. The Warriors was released in 2005 for the PS2 and Xbox by Rockstar. Labeled as a beat-em-up, it was well received for both its gameplay and authenticity to the original 1979 film. Can I beat this hidden gem? The Warriors was recommended to me as a Rockstar hidden gem, and while I do agree that it is a hidden gem, many people will like it, I found myself thinking it's a good game, a decent game. So let's go over the journey through it and see why I thought those things. At the beginning of the game, I choose my account name as, because why not? And then we get an opening cutscene where we see a large amount of varied people gathered together listening to someone talk about all of the gang-related stuff going on in New York City, mostly Coney Island, because that's where the main characters, the Warriors, are stationed at. The general idea of this scene is that this man is the leader of the most powerful gang in New York City, and he wants all the other gangs, the hundreds of other gangs, to get together, have a truce, so they can take over the city. As of right now, the gangs are warring with each other all over the place, and as he puts it, there are 60,000 gang members, but only 20,000 police. So if we get together and work as a team, we can actually take over the city and run it together. But, just as you would imagine, someone there doesn't like this idea and shoots him. So obviously this is not a plausible thing for the gangs to do. No one can really agree on everything all the time, and there's gonna be one bad egg. Even if there's just one, he ruined everything. But that's the end of the cutscene, and then we begin with the Warriors gameplay. Gameplay begins roughly 3 months before the cutscene at the beginning of the game happened, where we meet the Warriors and they are initiating a new member named Rembrandt into the game. Now if you've seen the Warriors movie, then you'll know a lot of these characters and even some of the voice actors who have come back from the movie to voice these characters, which is really cool. Although that movie is very old, so they are a little bit older in real life, so they sound a little different, but they are still the voice actors. And everything from the movie for the gang The Warriors is kept pretty much the same, so you're gonna recognize a lot of people if you know the movie. Rembrandt is particularly good at tagging, and that means to take the logo The Warriors and spray paint it somewhere as if it's graffiti, and it's supposed to be like this kind of mark that means something. You're supposed to spray it over other gangs' tags and you know, oh, we're so good we sprayed over your tag type thing. I guess, I don't know, it's lost on me, but this means something to all the gangs around the area. So they want someone who's good at it, who's quick, so they can do it fast and get it over with, get out of there, and they've left a message because they did that. This first mission with Rembrandt is really a big tutorial about a lot of the different mechanics in the game, and one of the biggest ones being the fighting. We get to learn all of the different moves your character can make, as well as pressing start to look at some of the things they can do. All the characters have very similar move sets, with a few things being different, such as the power attack. If you do a power attack, some of them do a wide area and some of them do a single target attack, and they are obviously more powerful than normal attacks. There are light attacks and heavy attacks, there's grappling, there's throwing objects, there's picking them up and hitting people, and that's what we learn most of here. Your character targets people, kind of like a soft targeting system. You'll attack them, and you want to get their health down because you don't necessarily always kill everyone, but you need to at least render them unconscious. You can perform little combos, you can perform special cinematic heavy attacks that will really hurt them, and while you're doing all of this, at the top left of the screen, you can see a bar that when it fills is the rage meter. If you activate rage mode, you will become much stronger and do better attacks that do more damage. And this will help through parts where you're fighting very difficult enemies, maybe a boss, maybe just a large amount of enemies who are coming at you, cops especially. You really don't want them to like get you on the ground and cuff you, so you want to do as much damage as you can. Fighting system in this game is touted as being pretty complex, although when I played, a lot of my attacks were just ones that worked in the moment, such as the power attacks, running away, getting away from people to like reset myself, and coming back in for some like rushing attacks. It reminds me a little bit of God Hand when I'd run up and hit a button. I'd kind of throw myself at enemies and knock them over, which would help me kind of establish myself in a certain battle, especially if there's lots of enemies, or if there's just one enemy, I can knock him on the ground, get up and start wailing on him without having too much of a problem. So I never went too deep into the fighting system, but there are ways you can do it, get better at it, and I just don't showcase it here very well. After the fighting is done, we learn things like mugging people, where you come up behind them and grab them and you have to hold your analog stick in a certain direction. If you feel resistance, as in the controller rumbles, then you're in the right spot, and if you don't feel it anymore, then you aren't mugging them. So you need to rotate until you find the vibrations, and once you do, you'll see the bar slowly go up. Now you do have a time limit for a lot of these mini games. You need to perform them quickly. There's a lot of these small ones like mugging, stealing car radios, tagging things with graffiti, getting out of handcuffs, so you'll need to do them quickly and learn what each each one is. They aren't super complex, but once you learn them, then you can farm them quick enough to get out of or perform whatever you need it's necessary. We also learn how to climb over things, jump over fences, break windows, climb up into buildings. Once we're through with this mission, we take over another character who is the warlord. He is the gang leader right now, and it tells you how to control a small gang of the warriors. And you can do this by pressing the R2 button and selecting different commands from them, although most of the time you'll be doing only a few commands or very specific ones if the game wants you to do it. You'll have them follow you, you'll have them stay put, you'll have them attack everyone, you'll have them destroy everything. That's pretty much the gist of what you do with the warlord or just the gang leader. You just kind of control what they do on a very general level. The AI isn't too bad at the game, but it would be more helpful if you could maybe switch to a member or tell them very specific things, maybe to just one member, but that's okay. You never really need that much. So a large overarching command works pretty well. We also learn in this section of the game how to escape handcuffs, how to save your friends from handcuffs, how to revive members, how to lure cops away by making noises, and how to even steal things from stores to get money. This entire time during the tutorial, we're fighting one of the gangs that are our rivals called the Destroyers. At the end of the tutorials, the gang questions why the Destroyers were even in our territory, later to find out that they've gone to our hideout and done tags over our warriors' tags. And now it's time for Rembrandt, the new member, to show what he's made of. He needs to begin tagging the Destroyers' turf to show them who's really boss. I guess this is how you show people you're boss, by tagging graffiti on their stuff. So the next mission includes us doing the minigame for tagging with Rembrandt, and your allies are supposed to protect you while you're doing this, although you can also help them and clear the area before you begin tagging. Now this is the first time you really have some freedom during the mission after tutorial section, so you'll see that not only do you have normal objectives, but bonus objectives that will get you some more money, maybe it'll unlock a couple things for you. I don't do them very often, but they are helpful to complete, and they aren't necessarily that hard. So this one we have to do some tags of graffiti over their graffiti, and to do this we do a little mini game, which is actually my favorite mini game out of all of them. When you're tagging their graffiti, you can actually use the left analog stick to draw on a small picture of what it might look like if you were actually tagged. You even draw some of the letters out of the warriors, and then he'll draw them out. Now some of the tags are more than one tag. You can't just tag it once. You need to tag 3 separate parts of it to spell it out properly. This is kind of a way to, make it difficult for you. You don't just do it in one fell swoop. You have to slowly do it, and if some people come up and try and stop you, either your teammates gotta help you or you gotta stop and fight them. While you're doing this, you also have to have cans of spray paint, and you don't just get them. You have to find them or buy them. This is where the money starts to come in. Sometimes they'll sell the spray paint to you just for whatever. They'll give you $20 for a can of spray paint. And sometimes they'll steal your money and try and run, which then you have to go beat it out of them. Sometimes you get the money and an extra spray paint, but sometimes they just give you your money back. They had no spray paint first place. So the aim is to gather as much spray paint as you can, because some tags take more than one can, and then you need to just go tagging, find each of the objectives and tag it. As I start to get better at the tagging, we get to the end of the mission, but it's not quite over yet because they want to do one more big tag. They want to go into the Destroyer's territory, right into their hideout, and tag it on their home turf. Well, everyone's passed out thinking that they got us earlier. So they have a party, get drunk, and get wasted, and they're all on the floor. So we think we can sneak in and do a special tag right in the middle of their lair. And we do. We get Rembrandt all the way in there and we do it, and after we leave, we see a cutscene of them coming to and realizing they've been had, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why we're tagging shit to like, ooh, we tagged your stuff. I mean, that's cool though. After this mission is complete, it'll be our first time going into the hideout in between missions. This is where you have a couple options that you can do rather than just starting the next mission, which you can start the next mission if you like, or you can do some flashback type missions or just some open world type missions. The open world ones, you just go out into a section of the city and you can perform little odd jobs here and there. Some people will have you asking for you to do certain things, defeat some dudes, bring them stuff back, and then you get some unlocks, things that are actually pretty helpful for the game, considering that some of them will give you things like handcuff keys to immediately get out of handcuffs. Means that these missions are way more helpful than just providing you with some money or some fun. They actually give you something helpful at the end. You'll get a lot of things from them. I don't do very many of them, and it would have been more helpful if I did, but I skip it all. So if you want to play, I absolutely recommend doing these missions in between so that you can get this cool extra helpful stuff. Apparently in between missions, you can also work out and increase your character's stamina. I never did, and I didn't even realize you could, sadly, but at least I beat the game, so it's okay. But I do recommend you do this as well because it will help in future missions. It's time for another mission, and this one is pretty void of anything significant happening other than at the very end. What we do here is 3 of the members get together and they want to go find women. So we get on a subway, and as we begin going down the subway tracks, the entire city blacks out for one reason or another. Most likely it's gang related because there's hundreds of gangs. I mean, if there's 60,000 gang members and 20,000 members of the police force, you'd probably expect the police to be losing a lot of the time. Because of the blackout, the subway stops and we have to get off and walk through the tracks on foot. And after we get up to the street level, we are pretty much just given full reign of doing destructive things. We need to steal loot from stores, we need to steal car radios, we need to break shit, and then escape. That's practically the whole mission. Now, not all of this is very interesting. The car radios aren't that fun, mostly just finding a car that will allow you to take the radio and then swiveling the analog stick around as if you're unscrewing it from car and taking. It's a very quick mini game, and if you just keep rotating the stick, it will eventually come out in about 2 seconds and you're done. And you don't know what cars will allow you to until you go up to them and then press the button it says once it comes up. It's just kind of weird that it's a requirement. You gotta take 5 car radios. It's fine, but you barely ever do this again. However, store destruction is something you do quite often because you'll need the money. Here, however, it just wants you to take the money so you understand how it works. You go into a store and you have them wreck it all. They'll go in and they'll start smashing glass and taking stuff, and you'll see your money total increase as you steal things. Of course, you'll set off alarms in the process, but because it's a blackout, there are no alarms. This is just teaching you the basics of letting you go into a store and steal everything. You won't really get attacked even because there's a blackout, so there's no one knowing what's going on and everyone's doing it, so who gives a shit? Near the end of this mission, the police come out and we have to scatter and go back home. That's it. This mission is not very difficult. It's just run through, steal stuff, break stuff, and eventually scatter and go back home. At the end of the mission, we see a cutscene of a gang called the Rogues, and the main leader of this one is the one who shot that guy at the cutscene at the beginning of the game. It's very easy to spot that he is the same dude, and he is insane, and he treats his gang members terribly. I mean, not like you'd imagine. I mean, just unhinged. He's an unhinged dude. I don't even know why these guys are following. He doesn't make any sense. He just does stupid shit. So he talks a little bit about doing things, and that's about it. But we do learn that he is an important person in the story. Our next mission begins with us listening to the radio and a woman who literally reports on all of the gang-related stuff going on. It seems like that makes it easy for police to figure out who's doing what and where, but hey, we get to listen to gang radio. So she says at the end of her little thing that the orphans have been bopping, which is, like taking care of the warriors, which is us. And we're like, whoa, who are the orphans? We don't even know who they are. They haven't been doing shit. So they lied and made it up and then told her, and she reported on it as if it was a real thing. So of course, we're pissed. Now we gotta go beat the shit out of the orphans. And they turn out to be little baby tiny wimps. I don't know why, but apparently all of them are little scaredy cats, and they made up this lie thinking nothing would happen. I don't know. I don't understand why they did this. But we spend the mission chasing down a bunch of members from the orphans, kicking their ass, and then eventually interrogating one of their members to find out where the leader of orphans is. He doesn't tell us. Instead, a woman who is associated with this dude is like, all he cares about is his car. He's over at the auto body shop. And so we go over there and he's at the auto body shop. And he makes a mistake by locking himself in behind the gate so we can't get to him because again, he's a sissy. So he doesn't want to fight even though we're all gangs. I don't know what his deal is, but we see his car, which is on the side of the fence that we are, and we decide it's time to wreck it. So he sends a bunch of dudes after us to try and stop us, but he doesn't come out because he's a little baby. And so the entire time we have to fight off dudes and break his car. And once we do, the mission's over. I begin the next mission, which starts with Rembrandt coming to tell the guys, hey, I heard of a tagging contest they're having and I signed us up. Of course, Cleon, the war leader, is like, dude, you can't do shit without talking to me first. So he's like, you don't do it again, but we'll go do this. And this is actually kind of a fun mission. It really is a tagging contest where they are holding a small area down in a territory we're not really sure of yet, but everyone has to race to a spray paint can, get the can, and go over and make a tag. You have to do this quickly. One of the things I found as I was doing this was grabbing a couple of these spray paint cans because you might mess up, people kind of attack you sometimes, or you just, if you mess up a little bit on the mini game, you'll lose a whole can, which means you'll need to go get more. And because they spawn randomly and you need to get there before everyone else, it's best to pick up a couple so you can tag appropriately. This was a fun little section of the game, and it ends in a double cross, which is kind of fun. See, this contest is being held by someone in the Hi-Hat's territory, someone who is not invited to go do this, and who does not like the fact that we're tagging in his area. Who the fuck set this up this way? Idiots. Anyway, they're pissed, and so they begin attacking everyone. So there's a big melee in the middle of the place everyone was tagged, and we have to call a freight elevator and get the fudge out. Once we get up the freight elevator, we start a small chase sequence that's almost a 2D aspect for the characters to run across the roofs and jump and avoid things. It's actually kind of fun. I really like this mission. And eventually we jump through some windows and land inside of the Hi-Hat's hideout, where the Hi-Hat leader has all of this art all over the place. Apparently he's a big art aficionado. And to take care of the double cross, we decide to break everything in there. We throw stuff at the walls, we break stuff, and then once the game is satisfied with how much we've broken, we get out of there. We get to see a cutscene of him, of course, being super pissed that we did that, but who gives a shit? Fuck him. After this, the gang hears of a guy named Sanchez who owes us money, getting out of prison and heading back to his gang. We go after him to get our money back, and instead of giving it to us, he wants to fight us. So we spend a lot of time fighting the hurricanes, chasing this dude down, getting ambushed, fighting large groups. At one point we split up, so there's only 2 of us in our gang, which kind of sucks a little bit. I wish we had all our members. But we fight all the way through until Sanchez chickens out and tries to find some big dudes to come help him. He says, I know you owe me money, but it's forgotten, just come help. So we have our first boss fight. 2 big guys in this small apartment complex come out and start wailing on us. It's a little difficult because we have to throw things at him to really get his health down. You can't just attack him head on without him smacking you down. He does a lot of damage. So you gotta throw things at him until he staggers and then smack him up a bit. His brother comes out, another big dude, and you've gotta throw stuff at him as well. It's kind of a difficult fight because, you know, it's meant to be difficult. He hits you with this large board he has, they ram into you. You've gotta be a little bit careful because the second you start losing too much health, you're gonna start losing your dude, so you gotta be careful. Sadly, the hits just keep on coming because after this mission, the hi-hats return for revenge on us, and we have to just bop them, which again, I love that they call it bopping. I'm just gonna start calling killing people bopping them. That's just a wonderful term to say. Anyway, we bop our way through Coney Island, destroying the hi-hats here and there. There are some parts where we go into an amusement park ride that's scary themed, and we pick up skulls off the ground and toss them at people, eventually getting to the hi-hat leader himself, where we must pick up skulls and toss them at him until he comes down off of these little riser areas, and when he comes down, he's pretty tough. If he gets a couple combos off on you, you're gonna lose most of your health. And when your guys go down, if you don't have any kind of healing, you cannot bring them back into the fight. So you need to be careful. You need to take advantage of when he decides to attack one of your teammates and just wail on him. You need to block, because if he starts hitting you too much, you're gonna lose your character. And after a while of just throwing skulls at him and hitting him every so often, he goes down and he's apparently dead. One thing I want to mention is we see that dude at the beginning of the game in the original cutscene who is talking about gathering the gangs together to get them to work together. He's constantly thinking about how he should do this, and he's saying he has faith that it'll work. Obviously, we already know the outcome because he gets shot in the first 10-second game, but he does show that he's trying really hard to have his vision enacted, but we already know it's not going to work. On another side note, during some of these cutscenes, you get to see your characters' faces quite often. Obviously, they're the highlight of game and the show, the movie itself, but you get to see all of the wear and tear and the bruising and the blood that's been going on when you're fighting before the cutscenes happen. So some of the cutscenes at the beginning of a fight will show you pristine, clean, and fine, you know, all healed up. But after you start fighting dudes, you get to see all of the stuff that's happened to you during the fights, and it's actually kind of cool. The attention to detail in this game is really, really nice. The animations, how they have things set up, dialogue and cutscenes, just the city itself, they did a really fantastic job, and one of the reasons why I do like this game. Our next mission features the destroyers again, because we pissed everyone off and everyone's pissed at us and everyone's pissed at each other, so we've got to fight the destroyers again, and this time they're going around trying to tell everyone in town in our area that they are going to protect them and they should give them their protection money. Well, when we find this out, we go tell everyone in the shops like, hey, no, we're the protection you need. By the way, give us protection money. So we go collect more protection money from the dudes who already gave the destroyers money, probably coerced by being bopped. And then we get to a point where they're actually coming in to destroy the shops to stop us from getting any money anymore. So the destroyers come in and we have a shop health bar at the top right of the screen. You've got to stop them from destroying the shop before it's destroyed, which, I mean, at this point, like halfway destroyed is already enough. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in business if this was going on. 2 gangs fighting over my fucking little store. Hell no. Anyway, we spend a lot of time stopping the destroyers from destroying all of the shops until eventually we get trapped. They think they've gotten us, but we used sledgehammers to break a lock on this gate they think they've locked tightly enough. And we get out and they're like, oh shit, the main guy's gonna kill us, but we're gonna come get you, warriors, don't you worry. Well, actually, it's our turn to start destroying their stuff. So we run around town destroying a bunch of shops they have protection money from. And then we have to hunt down their lieutenant. We gotta destroy a bunch of dudes, eventually leading us to their actual hideout by following one of their guys back to it. Once we get there, we have to fight Virgil, the leader of destroyers, and we have to throw bottles at him, which seems like all the boss battles are like throwing items at the boss. That's all it is. Just throw items at him and then eventually you. This time though, we are in a burning building as it falls down on top of us while we fight this dude, and eventually we throw a Molotov cocktail in his face and he dies. Mission number 11, Pelham, is actually fairly difficult. So the story to this one is that a cop gets killed downtown, and so they start going around busting everyone in a gang. Doesn't matter who's who, they don't even care if you were suspected of killing the cop, they're just gonna bust you. So we have to send some dudes down to save 3 of our warriors who are stuck downtown with the cops swarming all the areas. The only way to get out of here is to push one of the other gang members into an oncoming train to get the police officers to come down there so we have free reign of walking around, which isn't really the case. It's still swarming with police officers, and they're fucking tough, man. They've got a lot of health, and they can cuff you. And if you don't complete the minigame, you're just cuffed, and you lose. It's like dying. Now, there is a chance to become uncuffed if any of the gang members in your group are available to come save you. They can also revive you as well if you have medicine on hand, but only if you have medicine. You can actually also revive your own team members, but also take them out of cuffs. And that's pretty much the only way to get away from the police officers. You just gotta run, man. Most of the time I spent running away from them because in groups they're just too powerful, and the second they knock you down, all of you are getting cuffed, and you don't want that. So the whole point is to mug a bunch of people to get enough money to get information on how to escape this area because there's too many police officers. The money you get from mugging people is pretty difficult to get because those people are running around town with police officers everywhere, and not everyone can be mugged. I'm not really sure why. Once you do mug enough money from people, you can talk to someone and they will tell you to go get bolt cutters because you need to go through the sewers. You still have to find the bolt cutters in town by running around a bunch, and there's still police officers everywhere. It's really difficult. It took me about 7 or 8 tries, and this is also coming off the fact that I haven't done any of the side missions. Apparently you can get keys to unlock yourself from handcuffs, and even to make it harder to be handcuffed, I'm not sure. But if you were to do that, this mission would be easier. So this isn't necessarily a super difficult mission, but I have impaired myself a bit by foregoing getting all these cool things that would actually help. Now hold on, because the mission isn't actually over. Once we get through the sewers, we must locate the Red Devils, which is another gang, and their leader Birdie, who is the one who actually did kill the cop. And we have to fight through a bunch of their dudes through a bunch of different buildings until we finally find out where this dude is. He is in a wheelchair, and he constantly talks about his condition and says things like, "You think you can push me around with this condition? We'll push this." And then pulls out a revolver. Now, something that interests me is, why doesn't everyone else have guns? This guy does have a gun, and it's scary apparently, because another boss battle happens where we fight the guy in the wheelchair, and he's hiding behind this little metal shed, and he just keeps coming around and shooting at us. You've got to throw bottles at him, but of course only when he's trying to hit your friends and not you. They'll throw bottles at him, he's trying to hit me, and I just gotta hide behind stuff until he decides to change targets, and eventually we get him. He does take a couple tries because he's just like finicky. Like, when is he gonna shoot at you? When can you throw the bottle? And once you learn how to do it, it's easy, but for the first second, he just kind of pops around the corner and headshots you and kills you in one shot. When the last mission is finally over, we get a chance to get in on the meeting that guy at the beginning of the game is holding. So he's holding this meeting and he's been talking about it every so often. Everyone wants to go, but only people who are invited, and someone has to put in a good word for you because some of the gangs are much higher up, and so if we get in on this gang thing, we can see what's going on, see if we can be part of like this cool network. And so to do that, we have to help the Sarachins, another gang who I guess we're friends with. I'm not really sure why we're friends with them, but we are. They ask us to take care of the Jones Street boys who are giving them issues. Overall, this mission is much more simple. We must go around and get a little bit of loot, some cash, break some cars, get the car stereos, and we need to plant evidence that the Jones Street boys are ripping off these corrupt cops. So they're already corrupt, but now they're ripping off the corrupt cops, and if we tell the corrupt cops about it, they'll end up getting in trouble. So that's what we do. We break into a car and load some stuff into there. We also break into their base and load stuff all around their base so that if any cop stops by, they'll see all that stuff stashed everywhere. To do this, I guess we set off a distraction out the front, come in, hide that stuff, come out, and then beat the shit out of them, and then go tell the cops. And the Sarachins are pretty happy about it, so they offer to back us up and have us go to this meeting. 2 days before the meeting, we get to see a cutscene where all the gangs start getting the information on when and where to go, and the fact that you're supposed to go there in good faith. Don't bring weapons, we're trying to work together, and so everyone is there, you know, you're like, okay, cool, all these gangs, but then the very last gang they show is the Rogues, with the really crazy guy, who at the very beginning of the game was the one holding the revolver that shot this dude. So we get to see like this kind of coming to fruition. But we don't know about any of that, so instead we're trying to tag our logo on some brand new trains that just arrived in the train yard, and these trains are supposed to go through the whole city, so everyone will be able to see whoever tags them first. So we gotta get there and we gotta tag. This mission is pretty short and not really that difficult. So around this train yard, we've got to tag 5 train cars, and we have to find spray paint to do it. The spray paint can be found by killing members of this gang who live near the train yard, and they're coming in to tag the new cars cars themselves. You steal it from them and you're able to paint all 5 cars. You just gotta make sure you have enough. Not only are these gang members around the area, but there's also police officers, and sometimes this can be to your advantage. If you get the police officers fighting the other gang and just run away, they'll all be busy with each other and you can go tag stuff for free. Otherwise, you sneak around and try not to let anyone see you so you don't have to fight. In the end, I just run my ass out of there and the mission's over. We have now finally reached the mission that takes place after the cutscene at the beginning of the game, with the guy from the destroyers shooting the main guy who's trying to get all the gangs together, and then right after he shoots him, the cutscene ended, but now we get to see what happens. He actually yells and blames the warriors for shooting this guy, which obviously isn't good because a lot of people there liked what he was saying. So now everyone everywhere knows that it was the warriors. Well, they think they know. Of course, it was the destroyer dude who shot him. So now the rest of the game is practically all of the warriors running and trying to escape and clear their name. This part of the game is a little too samey for me. Since the story is practically the same everywhere you go, it's just a test of going through, running away from people, tagging things as you're running because you still need to get your name out there, I guess, to show everyone that you're still badass. We do eventually lose like half of the members of the warriors, either death or police or who knows what. But we run through many same looking areas fighting different kinds of gangs who are all after us because the lady on the radio is calling us out and saying that there's a hit on us. Some of the memorable things left though are some chase scenes where you have to run away from a truck following you and pressing X to dash through boxes and triangle to jump over fences. It's a little difficult. You've got to get a feel for how you need to push the buttons or when it happens, and otherwise you get run over by the truck and it's just game over. Another one is that some of the gang members get coerced into hanging out with an all-female gang, and of course they try and ambush them, but we're able to get away. Another one is the titular scene of the movie itself with the lead member of the Rogues who actually shot the guy, clinking the bottles together on his fingers saying, "Warriors, come out, play." And that's when they're chasing us down, trying to use us to get themselves an advantage in the gang world because, you know, they're the ones who killed them. All these missions take place from about 3 a.m. to about 8 a.m. in the morning, and we're actually running the entire time until eventually it's daytime and we hit the beach. Eventually, some other people start to believe that it was actually the Rogues who did the killing, and they're right. He's right here trying to kill us now. We're in the last level of the game, and it's a boss fight against the Rogues. And it's really not that much of a fun boss fight, not like the other ones, which felt very fleshed out, mostly because they were not part of the movie. This is very much a part of the movie, and so they did what they could. You hide behind some very flimsy boards, throwing bottles at him until halfway down his health, you get a knife you can throw at him, and he has a gun the entire time, and he can kill you very quickly. As you move across the beach, you'll also have to fight some of the destroyers who for some reason come up in melee range and just fight, which you can knock them out pretty easy, but you are split up from many of the other warriors. Eventually, I'm able to toss the knife at him and take him down, and that's the end of game. It was very, very short at that last part, which is kind of interesting to me that much of the game was not in the movie, at least not the story of the movie, and then we follow the last parts of the movie, and it's very quick. It took about 2 hours to get through the last parts of the game, mostly because a lot of it was just running and getting away, fighting dudes quickly and getting away, tagging and running away. No, there's no like story development, nothing like that. You don't learn anything about anyone. This is just the climax of the story, and it's okay game-wise, you know, it's fine, but that's probably why I would say for me it's not as fun of a game. I wish that there was more of the other stuff that we were doing earlier. That was a lot of fun. But that means game number 70 is complete. The Warriors is all done, and I have to say, while I did enjoy the game, I don't think it's super good, and a lot of people have said, oh yeah, this game is great, and I think it's good. It was fun. I'd give it a 7.5. I do wish that there was more with a lot of the mechanics in the game, maybe more in the main stories, because as much as I like the fact they have side missions and flashback missions and other things you can do, I wish that the main parts of the game, most of what people will play, especially on a casual playthrough, contained more of what was fun, rather than saying, well, you gotta go do the side missions to see those things more. I don't feel like that's necessary. I mean, yes, the side missions should contain some cool little challenges, and that would be great, but the main story should be more about those fun mechanics, rather than delegating them mostly to the side missions. So I wish there's a little bit more, but I do understand understand that they have a story to follow, and they can only make up so much before it gets kind of out of their reach. So I enjoyed the game. I do recommend it, although physically the price point's kind of high. It was $50 for a mostly complete box for this game. I don't know why it was so expensive. Probably because a lot of people have been saying it's a hidden gem. It's all right. The animations are great. The graphics are really good. The attention to detail. The fighting was pretty neat. I just wish they did more with what they had there. All the mechanics were great, but they just need to do more. So I recommend the game, and now we're done with Game 70. So thank you so much, everyone who stayed this long to watch this video. I really do enjoy doing this challenge, so I'm just having a great time doing all this stuff. So thank you so much. Thank you to anyone who stayed this long. Thank you so much to the YouTube and Patreon and Twitch members. I appreciate you guys, and everyone has been picking games over and over and filling up the roster of all these cool games coming up. The next couple games we have are games like Scalar. I'm streaming Kessen right now. I'll be getting Road Trip Adventure, which is also called Chrono Q. I'll be getting Wolverine's Revenge. There's just so many games I have on the list, as well as all the Shin Megami Tensei games, so expect those soon. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'll be back with another video soon. Later.